We were supposed to have the rapture, but instead we had the reckoning last night on Welcome to Plathville. Season finale. I was giving you terrible information on this podcast. I had read on the internet there were 13 episodes. I should have known. You know, I should trust my own gut, and then I go back and forth. Anyhow, I had told you, okay, that the finale was really going to be Lydia Plath's wedding. Then, of course, Micah and Isaac have an epic fight. Micah's nose is broken. And so there were a couple of episodes after, right? But last night, episode 11, the reckoning, was in fact the season finale. So we are not getting 13 episodes. That was a rap-a-tat last night on season 7 of Welcome to Plathville. And we went out with a bang. I don't even think I can wait. I don't know when they're going to release season 8. I have no idea. I haven't even heard any rumblings that they're filming, but I hope the hell they are. I want Olivia Plath back, and I want a check-in. I don't know if it's going to be from a mental hospital or what, from Veronica. I mean, we need like an update on our girl. I don't know what kind of sinister-ish she was up to, but my God, last night they rolled the recaps. Chick thinks she's a chemist all season long. I don't know. I'm mixing chemicals. I'm mixing ammonia and bleach. I found it under a sink, and I think it's going to explode or someone's going to die. What? This show is so good. So we ended last night with The Reckoning, which was the family, the finale of the family confronting Veronica. Barry and Kim, congrats to them. They are officially divorced. They are single. They're ready to mingle. That might have been why we saw Kenneth, appearing again on this season. Rumor is that Kim and Ken are still seeing each other, and he's moving to Cairo, Georgia. But the divorce that isn't happening, and we know it hasn't made any progress, is Olivia Plath and Ethan. What a way to end last night's episode. They meet up at a hotel bar. Ooh, he was nearly 2 hours late. That mother scratcher. I don't know how she waited. I know how she waited because she got paid. She got paid to be there. So she was going to sit for that scene. I would have waited for his ass 30 minutes. I would have been like, bitch, you in that mobster vehicle that you seem to peel out every parking lot you can find. Your ass can find me somewhere else because I ain't waiting 2 hours for your late ass that can't plan because you were moving around farm equipment. That was actually why he was late. Oh, welcome in. I know. You're like, whew, what an intro. Hit us while we're hot. Welcome to the Sarah Fraser Show podcast. You guys know I'm Sarah. I do a daily pop culture pod. I'm so thrilled that you are here. Thank you for supporting the podcast. And this is it. Normally on Wednesdays, I recap Plathville, but obviously this is the last one. So Mondays, I'll recap Sister Wives, and then we'll resume our normal schedule with a lot of pop culture and guests. This week on the show, yesterday, if you missed it, Allie Luber was here from Vanderpump Rules, the former girlfriend of James Kennedy, spilling where she's at now in her life, spilling tea on James, the cast, and she filmed for Southern Charm. Tomorrow, Kevin O'Leary, one of the sharks from Shark Tank, is here giving you financial advice. Is our market about to crash? Should you buy a house? I hope so, because I just did. And everything else that's going on in the world. He talks about Jimmy Kimmel. Is it the beginning of the end? What his take is. And TikTok. I love TikTok. But also, where are we going with TikTok? A lot of people are worried now that China has agreed to sell the U.S. portion. Is the U.S. going to basically change the algorithm? You know it's coming. It's going to be a slow sink. Normally I'm more optimistic, I swear. All right. So let's get into it because there was a lot that went down. We opened last night's show with Lydia and Zach being confronted by producers. Did they get laid? Lydia was hot to trot. They wanted to get laid so badly. They had to get married. They couldn't bone before they got that ring on. Makes a huge difference. You got to have those vows. Okay. So, I'm not saying that. Y'all know I was boning long before I was married. I was living in sin. Not at I guess 16, 17. I don't know. Do they consider losing your virginity? Whatever. Okay. Do we need to go there? Sure. However, I have no regrets. And in fact, I don't know about a lot of you ladies listening, but once you get booed up with your man, right? Or woman, whoever you're booed up with, And you're in like a marriage. Like I love my schman. I would never want to do anything to hurt my schman. But now I look back and I'm like, I should have boned so many more people. Right? I mean, does anyone else feel that way? Like now I look back, I go, what was I doing? I should have had sex with like 30 more people while I had the chance. Now I got 1D for life, you know? I mean, which by the way, doesn't that sound like a boy band? 1D for life. Okay. Anyway, those two had to get a ring on it. Okay. In the Lord, in the eyes of the Lord, and I am a spiritual person, so I don't want to make fun of God. They, in fact, may know the way, and I don't. But that's the part about the Catholic Church and everything. I was like, I got to test the goods before I sign up. But they didn't. And the producers were like, so what happened? And they were like, it was a beautiful, beautiful night. And Zach was like, the chemistry in the room and the setting was magnetic. And they were like, what? Was that sex? And he's like, yes, yes. So they're making out with each other on camera. They finally got laid. They're on their way to their airport. They're going to Europe. They're going to Paris. They're going to be at the Louvre. They're going to Germany for this religious retreat. And they're boning the whole way across Europe. Good for these two kids. Okay. It's about time. Oh, Zach said something about there was a chemical connection in the room around sex and the surroundings when you're married. I don't know how he knows that because he doesn't have anything to compare it to, but we're with you, Zach. We're rooting for you, Zach. We feel that you have been mistreated in this family, and so we are really rooting for you, and also at the same time praying that you're not gay. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but we've all, bet our reputations on like what a douchey family to confront you. So anyway, best of luck. They say they're having the hottest heterosexual sex you've ever seen. Lydia like put that out on her Instagram. I'm not lying. So, and they have a different reflection, or they're putting out to the world a different reflection of their wedding day than what we saw. They say everybody was rooting for them. It was so lovely. And their wedding was one of the most spiritually connected days of their lives and incredible. Then we go, hard juxtapose back to the room where the entire family is confronting Veronica. Now I'm with Tegan. The Teague-meister at one point is like, I feel bad for her. She's in a room, she's getting attacked. Everybody, including who she thinks is her boyfriend for the next 10 minutes, is going after her. Like, I have grace for her. Like, not for the crap she's made up. She said that Tegan had an OnlyFans. I mean, Olivia Plath was on my show. Olivia Plath says the Teague-meister used to have an OnlyFans. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe we'll see it on season 8. But for now, the rumors aren't true. Okay. And it is piping hot in there. And the thing that's the tipping point is basically Veronica says to the family, I think Olivia's a great person. And, she's somebody I look up to. She's someone I admire. Kim's like, hard stuff. That's it right there. That's all I need to hear. They are like, they hate Olivia. Okay. So they're going after her. And Micah is like, it's you or my family, and you're going to have to change. She's like, I'm going to have to change. You want me to change everything about myself? And Ethan, for whatever reason, Ethan is like now the patriarch of this family and spokesperson. He's like, yeah, that's what we're saying. And so Veronica admits that she could be wrong about Tegan's OnlyFans, that it could just be blog headlines. And it's like, yeah, girl. And, she confesses that the reason for this, swell of negativity towards Tegan and putting out this rumor is because Ethan has cheated on her. Micah has cheated on her in the past, and she is worried that Micah would sleep with Tegan. And Ethan about loses it. You're saying my girlfriend would cheat with my brother? Yeah, we're saying that actually, because your brother's a lot hotter and seems like he's a little bit smarter. Okay, so yeah, there could be. I mean, is it the strangest thing that's ever happened? No. If you guys were ever allowed to watch Maury Povich, you would know that it happened every week. Okay. Of course they weren't. They didn't have television until 2019, but that's neither here nor there. And so she admits that she could be wrong. She starts to basically, I think, take a shred of accountability, but at the same time, it's so fighting the family, so obviously over the family. At this point, I think she's so hurt by Micah cheating. She keeps bringing that up. She can't let it go. Fair enough. Certainly, people break up all the time because of cheating. He apologizes throughout last night's episode, but the damage is done, right? And Veronica admits that she could be wrong about other things in the family, but doubles down that, um, you know, uh, she has no regrets basically coming after the family. She has no regrets about talking shit about Kim or anybody else. And that's when Tegan is taken aside from producers and basically says, I do feel like everyone's attacking her. I feel bad for her. And then Veronica says, and this is so typical. I had to laugh out loud in this moment. Veronica's like, so you guys are going to blame me for the broken nose incident. And they all like immediately, they're like, yeah, that's exactly, yep, you're the reason. She's like, let me get this straight. I wasn't even there and I'm the catalyst for this fight. And I mean, I know what they're saying and I know what she's saying, but to her point, she didn't make these two like throw fists, you know? And then Ethan is like, why did you even come to the wedding? The cows are fat enough. You were out there feeding them the whole time. You weren't interacting with our family. You weren't trying to do any repair. The cows don't need to be fed, girl. Which I thought that part was kind of funny. And, she essentially says that she came to support Micah and Lydia. And Ethan is like, you didn't do either one, girl. You out there feeding the animals and they fat as hell. And then essentially right then and there, Micah dumps her ass. It's sort of like, it's like, all right, what are you going to do? It's like the end of Survivor. When they have the finale and like they're voting for who's going to win the $1 million. It was like, what are you going to do? Micah's like, it's over, girl. I'm done. I'm out. I can't live like this. So he breaks up with her right then and there. And I mean, I do say, I feel for her. I understand their point of view. I think a little bit we lost the plot in Veronica because, again, Kim and Barry have created this. They've created this, the dysfunction. And there is a pattern you're seeing, right? With Olivia, who I think is a credible source. Veronica, I think, started out that way. I do think she lost a lot of credibility in the way she handled things. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well for Zach and Lydia. Tegan, we hear mixed things. They could be back together. They could be off. But in that moment, Micah dumps her right then and there. And it completely felt like an episode of Survivor. And then, of course, they all stand up. They all like leave the room except for Kim. Kim sits there for a second. And they're like, you know what? You know what the worst part is, Veronica? You missed out on a good family. You missed out on a great family. And I'm like, I don't know if I would have led with that line. Like, I think I would have led with like, hey, was a bummer. We actually really liked you. And we were looking forward to maybe all growing together and creating like, memories and a show. And we were rooting for you and Micah. But to be like, you missed out on a great family. I don't know. I don't know about that one, guys. And Veronica tells producers sitting there in front of Kim that she deserves more than a cheating boyfriend and more than a family that doesn't like her and lies about her. She does end up apologizing to Kim for hurting Kim. And Kim is like, okay, I hear you. I accept that. I'm not sure if I really believe it or that I really think what's coming out of your mouth is truthful. And then they both are like, and Kim's like, and in that, for that matter, I don't ever really need you back in my life. And Veronica's like, same girl. So it's like this. I don't even know why we did the apology. It was like, it was awesome in the way that for the first time ever, the show felt like a housewives scene. It really did. It felt like a Lisa Barlow, melting down with Heather Gay at a restaurant where it's just like, there's Lisa. I'm not like you guys. I'm just richer and I just have different problems than all of you. And Heather's like, no, you don't. No, you don't, bitch. Like you're just the same as us. And it's like Kim and Veronica are sort of like the two of them looking into a mirror. And anyhow, so that's where it wraps. It wraps-ish there. Okay. So, they sort of have this scene with Kim. And then Micah comes back into the fold and we sort of get a series of we get a series of still graphics where Micah had initially said he would drive Veronica back to Boca so that he could collect his stuff, drop her off so she could get home. When Micah kind of gets away from her and is in the kitchen, Kim makes it very clear, and the family members, they don't want him alone in a car with her. Interesting. Uh, I can understand as a mom. I think obviously things had gotten so tense. And I think at this point, she did kind of confess, Veronica did, to lying about certain members of the family. So I understand that there's a level of worry, right? And she also throughout this compares herself to a chemist waiting for her science experiment to explode. It seems very premeditated. So I understand their fear, if you will, right? And Ethan even says at one point, you drove across a wood covered bridge and you lit a match. The guy's analogy. Have you noticed this too? Ethan Plath's analogies are all from like 1950. I mean, truly, it's like, right? I mean, and I was in a Model T, and driving over you is like driving over a nail in my Model T tire. It's like, he's like, here on a wooden bridge. How many bridges are made of wood anymore? I mean, I know you guys are in Georgia. I grew up in Maine, like not many. So we get this series of graphics, but essentially, then the producers decide no, whether it's producers, Micah, whatever, that Veronica needs to go to a hotel room. She does. She spends the night there. She's flown back to Boca, separate. Isaac, Ethan, Micah jump in the car, drive down to Boca, and with a police escort. This is interesting. And it gets even more interesting last night's finale. Then Micah cleans out his stuff. Okay. So there you have it. Wild. A cop escort accompanied them. So now this is important. Why is this important? Well, the next 10 minutes of this show was important last night. And I almost wonder, I'm just putting my producer hat on. For a lot of you that are new to the show, I worked in television. I worked for Fox 5 DC for 13 years as a entertainment contributor. I started their podcast division. I did entertainment podcasts, true crime podcasts. Anyhow, I'm privy to how shows work, how networks think. I worked for iHeartRadio for a long time. I almost wonder, it does feel to me last night's finale, scenes were reshot to almost cover the network's bases. And what I mean by that is Veronica has come out and done lives and done Reddits where she has essentially said that Ethan, Isaac, and Micah have stalked her, have shown up to her house, have left her on the side of the road, that she's tried to call the police to get a restraining order against them. She's reached out to the network. But last night, the family really addresses almost point by point the lies that she has put out there, which those have only happened this summer. So to me, that scene with Ethan, and again, like Ethan has sort of become the, I don't know, spokesperson for this show, which is just very bizarre to me. Again, it's like, where is Barry? I mean, making this stupid Riz joke, I guess. It's so weird that like Barry isn't the man of this like house, doesn't really stand up. It's sort of now being run by Ethan and Kim. Which also kind of leads me to believe, like, does Barry get a bit phased out of the show and Kim continues with her kids, her dating life? Obviously, she loves a bottle of wine. It was fascinating how it goes down after this. Okay, so essentially, after the graphic explaining the cop escort, then the family starts to disclose everything that Veronica has done online and spread lies and goes point by point. Again, this to me is very interesting. Whether this is covering the Plaths, whether the network, to me, it felt like the network orchestrated this, but they go point by point. Barry says, I never called her a liar, ever. I thought she embellished, but now that I've seen what she's posted online, she's a liar. So he kind of doubles down in a bit. As I mentioned, they clear up that she accused the boys of leaving her on the side of the road in Florida. They say that's absolutely not true. She's also accused the family of incest. Now, I had not read that, but she has accused them of that. And Ethan says that they have never had incest in their family. Then they do this analogy where they're doing a controlled burn at the Plath farm, and they essentially compare it to Veronica, that a controlled burn, even though you're burning some of the good, you're burning a lot of the bad. And if you keep it in control, it essentially starts anew, right? But it can get out of control. So we kind of have this like metaphor of them maybe starting fresh without Veronica and torching their fields. I guess, okay. I don't know if they end up selling the animals that Veronica was so obsessed with anyway. I don't know. The animals are nowhere to be seen. And in this moment, Micah apologizes to all of us on camera for what he's done, says he feels great remorse for cheating on her, and owns that again, but essentially says that his therapist has made him aware that the relationship he was in with Veronica was really about him saying to himself, he wants to settle down. He wants to settle down. He wants to be in a relationship. And that's what he discovers from Veronica. That's what he's taking away. And that's a really good thing. Okay. Before we move on to the last half of this episode, which involves Olivia, Ethan reuniting, a sit down with Kim and Ethan, and then Kim and Barry's divorce, I do want to tell you, I have podcasting courses. So if you have always dreamt of having your own podcast, if you would like to start a Welcome to Plathville podcast for season 8, now's the time. But you got to know how to do it. Don't wait. Don't try to find it out on your own. I have paid the dumb tax so you don't have to. I've made so many mistakes. The first couple of years of podcasting, I lost $40,000 and paying co-hosts I didn't need and renting podcast space. Don't make the mistakes I did, which is what I share with you in my Go Big Podcasting courses. You can go to my site, gobigpodcasting.com. I have a discount code. You can get for the month of September, Big September 15 for 15% off. I'll make sure that code is still good. I know today is October 1, but Big September 15 for 15% off all of the courses. If for any reason it doesn't work, just hit me up. We always give a discount on our courses. There's a Podcasting 101, which is less than $9. Podcasting for Pros, which is an intermediate. It's it's in the low 200s when you use the code. That teaches you how to plug in the microphone, where you should be distributing your podcast, and how to make thousands of dollars podcasting and grow followers. Do some of the old tricks in podcasting, like doing pod trades, going on somebody's podcast and they come on yours. Do those even work anymore? I'll tell you what podcasters like myself, I've made this my living for the past 9 years, how I've scaled up. I bought a house in LA, so you can do it too. GoBigPodcasting.com. Big September 15 for 15% off, and I will get you an updated code. I'm also taking on a few select one-on-one podcasting consulting clients. So you can email thesarahfrasershow@gmail.com, and that's $4.50 an hour, and we can work together direct. So absolutely. Now's the time, because season 8 will be coming. And if you have hot takes, you need to be sharing them with the world. All right. So we end sort of Micah and Veronica's relationship. We're done, right? So then Kim and Ethan sort of had this heart to heart. The wedding is over. Lydia and Zach FaceTime them from Europe. Lydia and Zach are having a great time. And of course, Ethan is right there. He wants to know what it was like with them boning. He's like, Zach, how are you, man? How was it? It's like, okay. Kim is just laughing, oh, God, okay. They're all obsessed with sex. It's just so weird. And of course, they talk for 2 seconds and Ethan's like, okay, man, so make sure you're filling those croissants with a lot of cream. And you can see at this point, Zach and Lydia are like, connection's off. See you later. Zach ain't having it. Okay. So I give it to Zach. The man is a proper man. The man is a gentleman. He's not going to talk to Lydia's brother about boning his sister. I mean, it's, and then they wonder where the incest rumors, they wonder why the family got so much backlash. Okay. So Kim and Ethan are having this heart to heart. Kim, says that she is so thrilled she's making up for long lost time. And Ethan apologizes to Kim about going along with everything that Olivia said. This is all very important, by the way, because in another 5 minutes, he's going to sit down with Olivia and basically tell Olivia, I want you to shut your mouth about talking about my family. And it's interesting because as she brings up, and as we see throughout last night's episode and this whole season, they're happy to talk about Olivia's toxicity, but they never talk about their own. And they don't want Olivia doing the same. So, he says that he walked on eggshells, and it's finally nice to not walk on eggshells after breaking up with Olivia. And I thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, well, Was he walking on eggshells when he like removed the door from the hinges in Europe so he could keep an eye on Olivia the entire time while she was rebelling and being a woman? Ethan, at this point, they also FaceTime. This is about the time they FaceTime with Zach and Lydia. I already talked to you about that. And then we go to, Kim is reconnecting with her son. She says she's happy about that. And then we go to Kim and Barry meeting. This was, by the way, I thought the last like 8 minutes of last night's show was I love the way it was shot. Obsessed. Hats off to the producers. I was obsessed how they went back and forth from the Kim and Barry divorce to Ethan and Olivia. These four individuals that really started this show, that really brought us in as an audience, watching them navigate dynamics. It was so well done. So Kim and Barry meet at a little wine bar and they announced that their divorce is final. Now, heads up on this. This rumor was out there that their divorce was finalized actually around August 24th. So little over a month ago, it had already leaked. But this was shot in early spring. So we know that probably around May, June, they could have even picked cameras back up, maybe around August. I don't know, that would probably be cutting it close for their edits. But anyhow, the divorce was finalized fairly recently. Supposedly the terms that are floating around on social media is Kim and Barry have 50-50 custody of the kids. There was a rumor that Kim had no primary custody of the children, but I've heard that's wrong. It's about 50-50, and they ended up dividing real estate and money. So Barry announces before he goes into the wine bar that he's over the moon that they're divorced, and they're going in for a glass of wine. And he's like, I hear somebody's been whining, referring to Kim. And it's like, oh. And at that point, the producers should have put the camera down and punched him in the face, but they didn't. He goes in, and I got handed to Kim, like Kim, I liked Kim's personality this season. I really did. He sits down. She's like, oh, I thought we could toast like a glass of wine. I thought you could buy me a glass of wine. He's like, okay. And she's like, actually, if you're, not feeling cheap, I'd like a bottle. Again, she's like the Karen Huger of TLC. No accountability for the fact they've both been arrested for DUIs. Like they don't even forget. They don't even remember that. So she wants a bottle of wine. And Kim, they talk about the properties. Their house in Cairo, Georgia, the kind of farm, not the farm that you see, because that they're going to keep, but the kind of like, I don't know, white, it's very like Southern home that we see that Barry currently lives in. That is for sale, has been in the 600,000s. I haven't checked Zillow recently. It was for sale for months. I don't know if that's sold or not, but that's the house that they are trying to sell and divide. And Kim announces that she wants to live on the farm in a camper. What is up with this bitch? Like, she will live anywhere but a house. Like, did she grow up a nomad? She's lived in a boat. Now, a lot of people, Olivia, I believe, has said she never really lived in the boat. Now she says last night she wants to live in a camper on the property. So Isaac can live in the house and Micah. Okay. And when eventually Ethan moves back. So they're there talking about their divorce. Then we go over to Ethan and Olivia. Ethan is nearly 2 hours late to their meeting. I already told you guys this when this started. I wouldn't have waited for his ass longer than 20 minutes. But she's getting paid to be there. She has to sit there for 2 hours. He did that deliberately. The guy's not an idiot. He was moving farm equipment. At any point, he could have texted her to let her know that he was late. And Olivia reminds us, typical Ethan. She doesn't take it personally anymore. This is him. No respect for other people or other people's time. And Ethan essentially announces to us that he believes that Olivia is becoming Veronica. And they are there to meet about their divorce. And they sit down and he's like, I got two things to say to you. One, I want to move this divorce forward. Now, in that moment, at first, last night, she agrees that she will comply. She is ready to get divorced. Okay. But she would like a little civility that, for a year and a half, she tried to get in touch with him to get the divorce finalized and he wouldn't respond. And now when he wants it because he's met the Teagster, she is like, I was in Europe. Your lawyer was at me all the time. Like, I need a minute. I want to do my taxes and then we'll get divorced. Now it's all gone to hell in a handbasket. She was just on my show a week ago and the two of them are not divorced. They're still not divorced. And we don't know that they are going to, when that divorce is going to be finalized. She did not imply that they were close. I didn't think on the interview. But then he goes into basically saying, I have one more request. I want you to stop talking about my family. I want you to stop talking about my family and our marriage. And I had to take this part personally. So she's like, I'm not going to stop talking about 10 years of my life. I'm not going to stop talking about my story. And he's like, you're slanderous. You're out here slandering our family. And she's like, telling the truth isn't slander. Now, so far, the Plaths have not sued either Veronica or Olivia for slander. So does that mean either the women are embellishing or lying? It doesn't. But it's very curious, especially Olivia, I think, has a lot to stand on. And Olivia, she says, Ethan, sorry, that's not going to happen. You talk about me, which of course then we've seen all season long, but you don't want me to talk about you. Like, that's not going to happen. And he says, well, you need to stop lying on my family. And I think Olivia's so right. They can say what they want about her, but she can't talk about them because it makes them look bad, is essentially what she says. Ethan says that Olivia and Veronica aren't following the golden rule, which of course is like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And he addresses Olivia's appearance on podcasts. I take this personally, by the way. I think this was a mention to myself. Now, certainly Olivia has been on other podcasts, but she's done my show 4 times. And he says, Olivia has gone on podcasts, does not name my show specifically, but says she has said everything outrageous about our family. Doesn't give as many examples as Veronica, but implies like the abuse stuff is false, implies, things about Kim and Barry are false. And so he really goes after, like, podcasts have given her this platform and she's lying. And he says that their family are not going to do podcasts. They're not going to speak out because it essentially will get into he said, she said. I think this is a horrible tactic in general. It never serves you to be silent. I mean, look, it depends on what it is, right? Avril Lavigne, like the longtime conspiracy that Avril Lavigne died in a car wreck, and like the Avril Lavigne you see now is like a dupe. Yeah, okay, speak out. Like, don't speak on that. It's so stupid. It's so extreme. Katy Perry, Jean-Benet Ramsey. I mean, it's so dumb. Like, Katy Perry shouldn't be out doing interviews. But for the Plaths at this point, and I get this question a lot, to not be out telling their side of the story, to be telling these things that they claim are not true, it doesn't have to be on my show, on any show, or launching their own podcast, it's such a horrible tactic, because every time you go out and you tell your side of the story, you are going to then set your own narrative where a lot of people are going to believe you, whether it's right, wrong, indifferent. I'm sorry. We have seen, I try not to get too political on these shows, but our president, right? He will respond to anything, set his own narrative, whether you like it or you believe it or not, right? And a lot of people love and support President Trump. A lot of people don't like it, but what I will say he's done very well is he will control his own narrative, and it's worked extremely well. This idea of like the Plaths not speaking, that's going to help them, is so insane. I've said it a million times on this show. I've reached out. I would have any of the Plaths on, any of them. Ethan, Barry, Kim, my show is an entertainment show. Of course, we poke fun, but I would give any of them a platform to speak their truth. What has Olivia said, whether it was about MLM credit card fraud with Kim? What has she said that you want to refute? Get your own side of the story out there. I've asked them. People will often comment on my videos, when you get, you just favor Veronica and Olivia. I don't. Those are the two that have been willing to come on. The door is always open. And again, it doesn't have to be my show. I have seen Lydia and Zach. I think it's genius of them out doing podcasts, leading the narrative of what their love life is like. They feel very strongly about showing couples what it's like to follow Jesus, and they're setting boundaries with the family. So far, so good. Like, a lot of people support them because of that. He's a mess. And just like per usual, his anger gets him. He walks out. I mean, he looks like he's ready to flip that table and like wring her neck. He walks out and he's like, have a nice life. And that's basically it. Kim and Barry also leave their wine bar. a little bit more amicable. And she says, "Did you buy me a bottle or just a glass?" He's like, "Oh, no, I bought you a bottle." I love that she's like hung up on this bottle thing. Like she's going to tie one on because she's like, "This is like my divorce party." Not really. She's like, "This sucks with him, but I'm kicking it off." Like I said, girlfriend is ready to get tooted up despite the fact. I mean, Karen Huger had 4 DUIs. And that didn't. Anyway, so she goes up to the bar thinking that Barry bought her a bottle, and the bartender's like, "No, a glass." She's like, "He only bought me a glass?" Like, it was such a great finale. Like, such a great finale where it is going to head next. Where it is going to head next. I can't wait for season 8. I hope they sign on. It was so terrific. Amazing. Okay. Thank you guys all for listening. Make sure to subscribe everywhere podcasts are played. Bye, everybody.